Okay.
Okay, so I start with it with each person. I do a little chart, a little genealogy chart. You can tell
Right.
nothing high-tech about my materials. Then I will go to put genealogy, whatever the latest format is that I have received, and sometimes I'll have several different formats for one
Right.
person. And then I go to a personal history, and it looks like there may not have been a personal history on this person, but there are pictures. So then I go to pictures. This generation and group of ancestors, pretty much, it's you can okay.
There
is a, but that is of a
Aunt
lady,
Betty.
of an Aunt Betty that our Grandpa Wight, that your dad and I, we transcribed his diaries.
Oh,
He
okay.
kept referring to this Aunt Betty, and finally I was going through these one day and realized that's Aunt Betty. That's the one they kept talking to. So then here goes, I kind of go all the way. Janelle Fowler gave me, and
Right.
sometimes if there was a cover letter, I would put that in there.
Uh-huh.
And then whatever genealogy and pictures, and there's a little brief sketch about her life. But that's how I go back, and in some cases I will have, well, and not in every, in some cases, in all cases between the generations. Let me find you an example.
Okay, Thomas Grover. Right.
I have, okay, here's one. This is a tab that happens to say, these are my fourth great grandparents. So I will go through and see that's where we're connected with Lyman Wight.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and not directly him, but he would
He's
be
the brother.
he would be our fourth great uncle.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a brother of
Yeah,
our great
his
ancestor.
father would be our third great grandfather, but he'd be a fourth great uncle.
Uh-huh.
How that works.
Right.
Okay, and then behind him I have the people who would be in that generation, and fifth great grandparents. And it gets a little slimmer as it goes back, but I have whatever I have. Now, this to me is kind of, I had this. And when my dad passed away, actually when Mom went into the nursing home,
Right.
we there were some boxes that Mom had kept of, and Dad had kept of, Grandpa White's businesses, the candy store.
Really?
Yes, the Hollywood candy store in Brigham City, and the ice plant, and ice and coal plant. And so, and of my dad's things. So these 4 books are my dad, your grandpa.
Right.
And then we go to grandparent, my mom, she's got 2. Then here is my grandparents. And you can see I have an end cap on each one so that you can tell who's in the book. And I've had fun putting some pictures representative of those that are in there.
Right.
The white coal truck for Grandpa White, and the farm for Grandpa Grover.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Joseph Leon was my dad's dad, so there's his genealogy. There's several different versions. And then before I think I got into his story, there happens to be a place for my Uncle Irving, who was a game warden out
Right.
past the Golden Spike. More genealogy. Janelle did beautiful genealogy
Oh,
with
yeah.
photographs.
Right.
And so I would put anything your dad or Janelle would give to me, an obituary of one of my aunts, because it falls under that grandparent. And at one point, I wrote his life history.
Oh.
And I think this is the one I wrote. Let's see. Insert by Jack White, clarification by Faye G.
By your mom, yeah.
Yeah. Somewhere in there I wrote that I had done that. And then I had put in pictures of some of the ancestors' homes. This was of our grandfather and his siblings, Grandpa White. But it's not in any specific wonderful order. It's as they arrived or how I did them, or if they could come in any logical order, I would put, like I'd try to put their youth together, their middle years together, and then beyond that, you can tell a lot of these pictures were from Carl and some were from Janelle. We were blessed to get all that they have been giving to us and sharing it. Okay, this is what I'm excited to show you. This is actually a receipt from the Joseph L. White and Sons coal and ice plant. A whole book. Now, if in that box there were several of these, I shared some with your dad and with Jack.
Really?
Yep. So I don't know what they might have done with them, but what I had extras of, I shared with them. And your folks came back from Brigham City one year, and they had picked up these programs.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, and they came to Mom's house, and they were talking about what a wonderful trip they'd had to Brigham City, and handed me this as a souvenir. And I looked at it and I said, "Did you study this picture right here?" And he said, "No." I said, "Well, there's the Hollywood Candy Company that our grandfather owned and our father worked in." And he got the cayenne pepper candy made and took Mom to a show on April 1st and set her in the middle of a row, and then he gave her the candy and watched how fast she could get out of the theater. So anyway, treasures like this, oil paintings. Okay, our grandfather White, as a young man and young father, worked in Merrill's lumber mill.
Okay.
The old Box Elder High School, he often recorded that he spent the day working on the frames for the windows for the high school, or the door frames, because there were hundreds of them, I'm guessing.
Right.
Well, this is a picture of the old Box Elder High School that he worked on. So anything like this goes into this book. I have some letters, and that's in Mom's handwriting, and more life stories on him and pictures, and some, you can tell some of it is repetition. Now this is something I don't think you know. When Justin and Debbie were living in the townhouse, and they wanted to get married, and I knew that those thoughts were in their head, and we went up to Utah, and he wasn't quite sure how to face his family, but I was excited because they were going to a family thing, and all that was going to do would be reinforce anything to do with family. And we went up to Peach Days. I had bought in Louisiana on a trip with Bob a whole bunch of t-shirts in this color, peach color.
Oh, okay.
I designed the Hollywood Candy Company motif, and then on the computer, Justin refined it for me. And then I made up these iron-on, we reprinted them, made up these, and we all wore t-shirts to Peach Days of the Hollywood Candy Company, and on the front of it, it said, "Proud descendant of Joseph and Amelia White," because he was also.
Right.
Okay, so here's some more receipts, trucks. Anyway, you get the idea. As you're going through your dad's things, I've had boxes. Come in here.
Okay.
I keep boxes of plastic sheets.
Oh,
So
okay.
that when I need to drop them into my books, I've got them. I've got extra types of fabric that I use for some of my own personal journal bookends that I'm going to show you later. So, okay, we've got an idea of this. Now, Dad's gets a little more complicated because he's more in my lifetime, and there's a little bit more.
And we have a lot of photo albums too.
Yes, I do. Okay, I'm not sure which one to start with. Okay. In this book of my dad's are letters, but there's his certificates to advancement in the priesthood, and letters that he wrote. And with his sign company, here's...
I have some of his business cards from that.
Okay, and that probably came from the box I opened up and
Probably, yeah.
gave your dad some, and he probably shared
Yeah.
some. An envelope with the Wight sign company. Just newspapers. You open it up and there's some Lowe's ads from when he was with Lowe's Hardware, which is easy to confuse with the Lowe's now because then it was... Oh gosh, now my mind is getting them confused. Old pictures, business cards. My dad, upstairs in Lowe's, he actually took me up there when I was a teenager because the upstairs was vacant. And he was couldn't believe he could get into the room he had used to create all of his signs. And a lot of that stuff was still there.
From him? Yeah.
It seemed like some of it was, but that picture was taken years ago when he was in the business, and I don't know who took. George J. Lowe, my dad did a lot of the sign painting on some of these trucks. And you've heard the stories about his window displays and insides of the stores. And I have some of the actual photographs from that time. This was a magazine of some significance. These are some of his actual original signs from George A. Lowe Hardware.
Joseph L. Wight and Sons. Wow.
A letter
1920.
from your ever-loving father, Joseph L. Wight. So that was to...
1927, so it's right after Dad was born.
And anytime you want to come and spend some time with any of these things, I've not meant to keep them away from the family. I've kind of figured it's my stewardship. There's Dad's box elder pin from high school. But see, it can go in here.
Right.
It can go in a notebook. And when I saw all of those boxes that Mom had, and I didn't know what to do with it, I thought if I ever want my children to get any meaning from this at all, it's got to be organized so they can know who it goes to and what was going on at the time. I don't know if they ever will, but they hear about it a lot. And I have taught this in Relief Society, and I have a couple of friends who've used me as a resource to organize their things. This looks like I'm not sure what's in this book. Let's just see. This looks like it's with North American. And his tool society. Some of his design books. People's Federal Bank book. Might have been from when they were paying off the loan on the Inglewood house. I think they only paid $1,500 for that house or something like that.
Yeah, I'd heard that, like 15 or 2,000 something.
Yeah, Western, when his mother passed away this morning, Saturday, 2 o'clock. Come if you can, Uncle Shirley. think that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is as you open up all of this stuff, even if it's bulky, even if it takes you a few notebooks, you can put it into something. And whether your kids ever, they may never, but who knows?
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah.
Or somebody else in your family. Here's some title insurance papers that Dad had kept, along with, magazine articles and all of that. So anyway, you get an idea of what I've done with ancestors. Now I'm going to show you. It's no secret that I've been keeping a diary since I was 16.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. And I started doing it even when I was in elementary school, but it
Really?
would be kind of when we were going on a trip, like when
Yeah,
Mom and Dad
right.
took me to Canada when I was 10. I have a little diary. So Mom had given me a diary that she had kept from the time they moved to from Ogden, came to California, and I don't know how old I was. I'm sure I was a preteen. But she gave me this little spiral notebook that just had one-liners, a date and what happened that date.
Yeah.
And it inspired me because I thought, okay, here's my diaries to here. I get wordy, and then now I'm on the computer, I get even wordier.
Yeah.
The trouble is, I put some of my feelings in there. Maybe some of my feelings, my kids are going to get their feelings hurt over something, but they're in there. And I thought, I need to make this so that it's a reference. So I used my mother's example, and the last few years, Bob worked for Unical, and he wanted me traveling with him a lot. I would take a few of these. I bought a ream of ruled paper when school was starting.
Yeah.
Took that with me, and 300 pages later, I had finished a highlight list for my diaries. Now, the exciting thing is I took Mom's little book, and it was just a small book, but I enlarged it. I took it to, it wasn't Staples, but place like Staples.
Right.
Because we didn't have copiers at that time. And I enlarged them, and I decided to put hers in with my book. My highlights list took off the years hers ended.
Wow.
So we have
All the way through.
all the way through from 1941 to present is a history of our family. Because I write important things with
Sure.
Ken's family, Debbie's family, Bob. This starts with actually Mom's words. I was using this as I was printing out pictures so that I could get names of towns and things to write on the backs of my pictures. And that's something else I believe in. Pictures need to be written on.
Yeah.
Dates and
Yeah.
who, because
Right.
Bob's mother handed me a lovely album, and if I hadn't have heard so many stories over the years, I wouldn't have been able to write or have any idea. Okay, this goes here. Okay. This turned out to be the beginning where Mom kept her journal. There's even some depression food stamps.
Oh, the ration stamps.
The
yeah.
ration stamps. Okay. And I start out with all the things that inspired me to write, including Henry Bigler's journal that gave the world the date that gold was discovered in California, because he
Sarah.
had written, and he was a cousin of my grandfather.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat. And the Diary of Anne Frank, I read that, and that influenced me
Sure.
also. And then, of course, I get wordy with an introduction. Here's my own personal genealogy, which is at the front of my books, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then a map of where I lived. This is how Mom's little diary was.
Oh, gosh.
This was folded up. So it was only that size and very tiny. But my mom always wrote tiny, if you remember that.
I do, yeah. Got a little bigger, so penmanship got shakier.
It did, yeah. But here is how hers turned out after I had enlarged
Oh,
it.
right.
And I put her name by each page so it would always be known who
Right.
wrote that. And I always tried to put my name on every diary page, every of the highlights, so they'd always be known. Okay, back here, when I was born, in a box, she had all these things from my babyhood. But you can't keep every blanket, and
Yeah.
okay, so I cut out a piece of blanket, a couple of them.
Oh,
This is
okay.
the one I was blessed in.
All right.
Dropped it in between my pages, and away I go. So there's a couple of them. There's my my birth certificate. Now,
California Hospital. I was born there too.
yep, all 4 of you kids
Yeah,
were
Mom
born
was
there.
too.
Yep, really.
Yeah.
And it's still in existence,
Yeah, it's now the California Medical Center,
but it's still there. Okay. Back in the days,
yeah.
before there were disposable diapers, before there were cloth cotton diapers that you dipped out in the toilet
Right.
to clean, there were woolly things that went over the diaper. Oh, this is before plastic pants. That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to go back to. This is one of those, and they were called woolen soakers, were used prior to plastic pants over diapers. Well, you know what? That's keepable.
Really?
But how are you going to keep it? And it's a little bulky, so I tied a little ribbon at the top. And it works.
I've always wondered what the pioneers did, you know, for the 3 months coming across.
I found this dress.
Oh, Jack. Yeah.
Yep. One of my 2 favorite brothers.
Yeah, yeah.
My first birthday, you could not buy, because of the war effort still, you could not buy fabrics and things. So my mother went to a parachute factory on Arborvitae, bought a little nylon, and made my 1-year dress. And that's my 1-year dress in there to keep forever.
It'll last forever if it's made of parachute material.
Anyway, the whole point, yeah, the whole point of this, and my brothers at the time were, there's Grandpa Grover
Oh, yeah.
with his straight back and proud posture.
That's the thinnest I've ever seen it.
Yeah, well. And then here's your dad and Jack out on the farm.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those pictures. Did you know that Debbie and Justin have these 2 pictures framed in their guest room?
Really?
They do, on display.
I got, Cindy posted this one.
Oh, really?
And on Facebook, and so I just commented underneath, yep, that's my dad. You know, boy inventor, USC grad, chemical engineer. He always was outstanding in his field.
Oh, yeah? Outstanding.
She ripped me up on that.
She should have appreciated it. After I got my highlights list done, that's all I was going to do, was just the highlight list.
Right.
And then I thought, dang, they need pictures.
Right.
So then I go through every one of my albums, and at that time, I didn't have the Apple program I have now where I can drag and drop
Oh,
as
yeah.
I'm typing. I had to go through the albums, pull pictures, put them on my...
Oh, no, and scan it?
I did. That's how I did. All of these pictures that went through most of my highlight list
Oh,
was I scanned everything. Here's some more letters. I have letters between me and cousins when I was a child, and
wow.
and drawings. And then after I got through with all of this, I was looking in the closets, and you know, you run out of closet space. And in my closet, in my workroom, were all of Debbie's school books, all of Ken's school books. Well, I had given each of them a full copy of my highlight list. And your dad, bless his heart, wanted to read everything.
Oh,
so
yeah,
he
yeah.
had it. And I took theirs back, and I went through their school books. So all of their report cards, their programs from church, things that they were in that were any meaning, and a lot of sampling. You can't put in all of your homework, but you can put samples
Right.
of each year. You've got to kind of prioritize just a little bit. But I think I've accomplished something that very few in the world would ever have.
Really? I'm thinking of somebody I know who's touring his country. He's over in Africa, but that's doing genealogy training. This would be really interesting.
Well, I had a lady in Relief Society stand up because I was telling about how I was organizing my family histories, and she says, but that's not nearly as important as genealogy and going to the temple. And the thing is, she's right. But not all of us.
Right.
We all have different desires and different strengths and different talents. And this has been my passion for whatever reason.
Right.
I don't know if it is to inspire other people. If it one, believe it or not, Ken's son Wyatt comes over here, and he loves to use their highlight list that I gave to his dad,
Right.
and go through and see all of the things of his dad's childhood.
Oh, yeah,
He
yeah.
comes over here and he picks books and he wants to go through
Right,
and he wants
right.
me to sit and explain things. So you don't know who's going to get it and how it's going to inspire somebody. But you've got an enormous task ahead of you with all of your dad's stuff. And a lot of it is going to be, it's going to be hard, but you've got to let some of it go. But what you do is you pick out the things that are samples of what he did and things you can drop in a...
Right.
You go through boxes of those acrylic sheets.
Yeah.
And some of them have a little lid
He
at
has
the
boxes
top,
at
and
the house.
he probably got that maybe from what I was showing him
Probably
now.
so. That's why he did
Let
that.
me excite you in this.
Okay.
The last years of your dad's life
Yeah.
was very important to him to make sure all of us had copies of everything.
I know.
Okay,
Yeah.
you've got the beginning.
Right.
You've
Right,
got the
right.
you've got the family group sheets. You've got
Right.
the family histories.
Right.
All you need to do is get some notebooks for your folks or whoever it is you're going to have the memorabilia on, and put those at the beginning, and then add stuff behind, and there you go. You've already got a head start.
He did something like this, but he's got a binder for each year. Then some years he's got more than one. They're
Well-
smaller, but it's a lot of loose stuff in the binders.
Okay.
And I've been trying to figure out, how do I scan this so we can digitize and archive it and share it? You know, put
And
it.
that might be just way overwhelming.
put it on a
might be just to
website.
try to get it
Yeah.
there, and then just have it accessible so you kids could
Well,
take
because now we're getting like 3-4 generations behind Dad, and I was hoping we could create a website, scan it, and put it so anybody could go to anything.
That sounds very nice and easy, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't.
Well, that's what I mean.
I thought it was
It's,
going to be just 8.5 by 11 pages, but no, he's got stuff
no,
like this,
there's
and I'm like, how do I
newspapers
do
and-
that?
And you can't. And there was a guy in church who got up in Relief Society, in Daytime Relief Society a few years ago, and his whole theme song was "Get it on the computer." You know, scan everything, put it on the computer, and I wanted so much to stand up and say, "Whoa!"
What am I going to do with this dress? I'm the baby dress.
Well, not only that,
Yeah.
you scan everything. You put it on a floppy disk or you put it on
Right.
a thumb drive. 30 years ago, somebody's going to find a box of thumb drives that
Yeah.
they can't plug into anything.
Right,
Who has
right,
the
right.
discipline to transfer everything? I believe in hard copies. I believe in
Yeah.
what you have, organize it. Then after you've got it all organized, if you have a jillion hours on your time, go for it. Word on computers. I needed to do something so I could retain what I learned, something I'd
Yeah,
use often.
right.
So he encouraged me to do my journals.
Right.
And at the time I thought, it's not going to have as much meaning because they're not handwritten.
Yeah.
And to me, handwritten was everything. Okay, you find young people now who can read handwriting,
They can't.
or they can't.
They don't teach it in the schools.
So how many of my descendants will ever be able to pick up some of these? And I mean, it's so anyway, I do have this, and you will. This is my current diary. On each page, I have it so that it gives the date and it tells my name, so that if
Okay.
ever things get broken, I mean, they come apart, they ask, whatever, you can see that it's from me,
Right.
and what the date is. And then I go through at the end of each month and I do a highlight list. Now, when your dad was alive, because he was so interested and I wanted him to know what was going on in our family,
Sure.
I went into more detail.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
So now that
So you're writing to him.
So now I was sharing our family with
Yeah.
my brother. Now that he's gone, I need to get back into that simplification again. But okay, here's a year I met Bob, I think, and I was in Inglewood Ward. You can see I just did that. I put a date and I put a simple little thing.
Right.
Said the opening prayer in Sunday school. Mom was sustained as Ward magazine director.
Oh, Barbara
I
was.
just kind of, that was how simple. And I've got to get back to that because that's, look at my
Oh,
mom,
yeah.
isn't she cute?
Yeah.
And this was a swarm day for
Please.
beach, and a necklace I got from somewhere, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that's just kind of, got a lot of greeting cards. Yeah, and we'd go to restaurants after dances, and I'd have my friends sign them. See, I got a 2+. I wasn't a genius, but I was conscientious.
At least you saved it.
Yeah. Oh, Ken's kids loved to rub into him that he wasn't a straight A student.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's a revelation for parents. Now, anything you want to add? Anything?
I think I'll come back and start thumbing through things.
You're welcome
Yeah.
to do that. I'm going to go in and tend to dinner a little bit.
All right.
And you're welcome to